Your biggest enemy isn't out there. It's the voice inside your head, but you can rewire it starting today. Every time you hesitate to take action, every time you talk yourself out of a dream, every time you procrastinate, overthink, or give up too soon, that's not you being lazy or weak. That's your brain doing its job. But here's the truth no one told you. Your brain wasn't designed to make you win. It was designed to keep you safe. And safety is the enemy of greatness. Every single one of us is born with a brain that was not designed to make us successful. It was designed to keep us alive. And if you don't understand this fundamental truth, you'll keep blaming yourself for feeling afraid, for hesitating, for holding back when the opportunity to rise is right in front of you. But that resistance you feel, that's not weakness. That's biology. Your brain's number one job, its evolutionary mission, is survival. That means it's constantly scanning for danger, constantly asking, is this safe? Is this familiar? Could this hurt me? When you're about to take a risk, start a business, speak in front of others, chase a dream that could change your life, your brain doesn't distinguish between physical danger and emotional exposure. It just hits the brakes. It says, wait, this is unknown. This could be painful. Let's stay where we are. That's where the self-sabotage begins. You might label it as overthinking or laziness or fear of failure, but it's deeper than that. It's neurobiology. There's a part of your brain called the amygdala. It's your fear center. It activates when you're under threat, triggering a cascade of reactions in your nervous system, increased heart rate, shallow breathing, muscle tension. These reactions were incredibly useful when we lived in the wild and needed to avoid predators. But now that same system gets activated when you're trying to make a sales call or walk into a job interview. Your brain reacts to growth the same way it reacts to danger. And here's the paradox. The very things that are most essential for your growth, challenge, discomfort, uncertainty, are interpreted by the brain as threats. So when you're reaching for the next level of your life, your brain isn't cheering you on. It's actually trying to protect you from the stress of change. This is why you might feel tired before doing the hard thing, why you suddenly remember something else to do, why you hesitate. It's not random. It's your brain trying to keep you safe by pulling you back into your comfort zone, into the known, the routine, the predictable. Now, understanding this is where everything begins to shift. Because once you realize your brain isn't the enemy, but rather a machine running a program, you can begin to work with it instead of against it. You can interrupt the loop. See, the brain is plastic. It can change, but only through experience. It learns by repetition, by emotion, by action. If every time you get close to taking a bold step, you pull back, your brain learns that pulling back is what keeps you safe. But if you move through that resistance, if you lean in even when you're uncomfortable, the brain starts to rewire. It begins to see that you can handle challenge, that discomfort doesn't equal danger, that growth doesn't lead to death. It leads to strength. So when you feel resistance, instead of backing down, notice it, pay attention. That's the signal. That's your brain doing what it was built to do. But you are not your brain. You're the operator of it. It's like driving a powerful car with an overly sensitive alarm system. Every time you speed up toward your goal, the alarm blares, trying to convince you to stop. But you don't throw the car away. You learn to drive with awareness. You learn to breathe through the alarms. You learn to keep going anyway. And it starts small. It starts with recognizing the pattern, catching that voice that says, maybe tomorrow, maybe after I'm ready, maybe I'm not good enough. That's not truth. That's protection. And it doesn't mean you don't feel afraid. It means you move anyway. Courage isn't the absence of fear. Courage is acting despite the fear. And each time you do, your brain adjusts. It adapts. It learns that what was once considered unsafe is now manageable, even empowering. This is how confidence is built. Not through thinking, but through action, repeated action. Conscious exposure to discomfort followed by survival and even success. That's how the wiring changes. You have to stop waiting for your brain to give you permission. It won't. That's not what it was built to do. You have to lead your brain. You have to act first and let your brain catch up later. And if you're wondering why this feels hard, why breaking habits or starting new ones takes so much energy, it's because your brain is lazy by design. It wants efficiency. Habits require less energy than new choices. So the first time you wake up early, your brain resists. The first time you choose the workout over the couch, it complains. The first time you speak up, ask for more, demand better, the brain says, this is unfamiliar. Let's shut this down. But when you override that voice, even once, you teach your brain something powerful, that you're in control now. That fear doesn't mean stop. It means go with awareness. And the beautiful thing is, the more often you override it, the easier it becomes, not because the fear goes away entirely, but because you've trained your system to stay calm under pressure. You've given your brain a new default, one where fear is acknowledged, but it doesn't dictate behavior. This is the edge. This is where transformation begins, not in some dramatic moment of revelation, but in the tiny decisions you make every day. The choice to sit with discomfort rather than run from it. The decision to speak your truth, even if your voice shakes. The discipline to follow through when no one's watching. These are the acts that retrain the nervous system. These are the reps that build resilience. This is how you win. So if you're feeling stuck right now, like you're capable of more, but something invisible keeps holding you back, I want you to hear this clearly. There is nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. You're not weak. You're human. You have a brain that's doing exactly what it was designed to do. But now it's your move. You know, everyone talks about the comfort zone like it's just some cliche motivational idea, but it's not. It's one of the most powerful forces that quietly shapes your entire life. And if you're not aware of how it works, it will run you. It will own your decisions, your routines, your limits, and it will disguise all of it as normal. That's how the brain protects you. It doesn't show up with loud alarms. It shows up with subtle resistance, low energy, distractions, and the temptation to settle for just enough. Your brain wants certainty, predictability, familiarity. That's how it keeps you safe. So when you try to break a pattern, when you decide to pursue something bigger, whether that's leaving a toxic relationship, starting a business, changing your body, or just speaking your truth, your brain responds with one thing: resistance. It doesn't care about your goals. It only cares about keeping things stable. And that's the real trap of the comfort zone. It feels safe, but it slowly steals everything from you. You think you're waiting until you're ready. You think you're being responsible by staying put, by not making waves, by not risking failure. But what's really happening is your nervous system is keeping you in a state of low stimulation because it interprets challenge as danger. That's the ancient wiring. That's the biology. But we don't live in caves anymore. We're not trying to survive wild animals. We're trying to grow into our potential. And that means walking straight into the discomfort your brain is trying to help you avoid. The crazy part? Your brain is so efficient that it begins to reward you for staying stuck. It gives you little hits of dopamine when you scroll instead of starting that hard task. It reinforces the habit of procrastination. It makes the couch feel more appealing than the gym. It whispers, "You can do it later," and disguises fear as logic. The comfort zone isn't just a mental space. It's a full body pattern, a loop that gets stronger every time you obey it. But here's what you need to know. Discomfort is not danger. It's not something to avoid. It's a signal. It means you're on the edge of something real, something new, something that could change everything if you had the courage to keep moving. And when that feeling shows up, that inner resistance, that friction, that's not a sign to stop. That's your cue to lean in, to move forward, because your breakthrough is never on the side of comfort. It's always on the other side of it. See, most people spend their lives trying to eliminate discomfort. They try to build routines in lives that avoid stress, confrontation, rejection, failure. And what happens? They stay the same year after year, because real growth only happens when the system is challenged. When you deliberately step out of what's easy and into what's unfamiliar. That's how you adapt. That's how you evolve. And that's how you start to become the person you're capable of being. There's a law in biology called hormesis. It's the idea that a little bit of stress applied in the right amount leads to greater strength and resilience. Think about weightlifting. You don't get stronger by staying at the same weight. You get stronger by increasing the load, by pushing the muscle just past its limit. The same rule applies to your psychology, to your identity. You don't build mental toughness by avoiding stress. You build it by facing it, by choosing it, by stepping into it and learning how to regulate your response. That's the difference between people who rise and people who stay stuck. It's not talent. It's not intelligence. It's the willingness to stay in discomfort long enough to change, to not run, to not numb it, to sit in the chaos of uncertainty and breathe through it, move through it, and train the brain to follow your lead instead of the other way around. And you don't need to make massive changes all at once. That's a mistake people make. They think they need to completely transform overnight. That's not how the nervous system works. The brain needs proof over and over that discomfort is survivable. So you start small. You start by doing the thing you've been avoiding for 5 minutes. You make the call. You have the tough conversation. You show up at the gym when you don't feel like it, and then you do it again and again. And what happens is subtle but powerful. The brain begins to stop panicking. It starts to recognize the new behavior as familiar. It adjusts. That's neuroplasticity at work. That's real change. Eventually, what used to scare you becomes your new normal. And once you build that internal proof, that evidence that you can handle discomfort, the comfort zone starts to expand. You begin to make decisions based on potential instead of protection. You start saying yes to opportunities without overthinking. You stop asking permission. You stop waiting for perfect conditions. You trust yourself. That's the shift. That's the point of all of this. You don't get there by watching more motivational videos. You don't get there by consuming more content or reading more quotes. You get there by doing, by moving toward the thing you don't feel ready for, by acting before your brain gives you the green light. Because let me tell you, the green light never comes. Your brain will always find a reason to delay, to hesitate, to settle. So you have to move first. That's how you take back control. And here's the deeper truth. Every time you choose comfort over challenge, you reinforce a life that's smaller than what you're capable of living. But every time you choose challenge over comfort, even in the smallest ways, you open a door to the future version of you. The one who acts with clarity, the one who performs under pressure, the one who doesn't fold when it's hard. That version of you is not found, it's built through choice, through discomfort, through repetition. So the next time you feel that urge to pull back, to delay, to wait, pause, notice it. That's your opportunity. That's the moment the old you dies and the new you is forged, not through ease, but through effort. And all it takes is one choice to stop letting the comfort zone decide who you are. Let's talk about what it really means to fight back, not just mentally, but physically. Because here's the reality most people never fully grasp. You can't think your way into transformation. You can't just decide to change and hope that your brain follows along. You need to train it. You need to shape it. And the way you do that is through action, repeated, intentional action that sends a message to your nervous system that you are in control now. People often try to push through resistance with willpower alone, and that might work for a little while. But eventually, if your nervous system isn't trained for pressure, it will break down. You'll burn out. You'll collapse back into old patterns. That's not because you're lazy or undisciplined. It's because your brain hasn't been given the right signals. So if you want to create lasting change, if you want to perform when it counts, if you want to actually win this internal battle, you have to rewire your system, not just your mindset. You start by creating inputs that tell your brain the world is safe, that discomfort is manageable, that stress isn't a threat. And that begins with the body. You can't outthink a dysregulated nervous system, but you can regulate it through protocols, simple practices that activate your brain in the right way at the right time. Breathwork is one of the most powerful of these tools. Not some mystical, abstract idea. I'm talking about deliberate breathing techniques that send direct signals to your brainstem, to your vagus nerve, telling your entire system to calm down, focus, reset. A single physiological sigh, 2 quick inhales through the nose followed by a long exhale through the mouth, can reduce stress instantly. It lowers your heart rate, balances your carbon dioxide levels, and quiets the inner storm. You don't need 30 minutes of meditation. You need 30 seconds of conscious breathing done consistently. That's how you shift your state. That's how you take control. Another powerful tool is cold exposure. Again, not because it looks cool on Instagram, but because it trains your brain to sit in discomfort without panicking. When you step into cold water, your body wants to fight. Your mind screams, get out now. But when you learn to breathe through it, to stay calm, you're not just getting tougher, you're teaching your brain how to handle stress in real life. That's what matters. If you can stay calm in ice water, you can stay calm in a high pressure meeting. You can stay calm when life throws chaos your way. You build that tolerance, that resilience, not by avoiding stress, but by facing it in a controlled environment, 1 minute at a time. Then there's sunlight. Most people overlook this entirely, but getting natural sunlight early in the morning does something profound. It anchors your circadian rhythm. That's the internal clock that regulates energy, focus, mood, and sleep. When you step outside within 30 to 60 minutes of waking, no sunglasses, no window between you and the light, you trigger a biological cascade that boosts cortisol in a healthy way, tells your brain it's time to be alert, and sets a timer for melatonin to release later that night. This one habit changes how you feel during the day and how well you recover at night. It's simple, free, and massively underused. You don't need fancy routines. You don't need to be perfect. What you need is consistency. You need a set of daily actions that tell your nervous system, we're in charge here. That's what builds self-trust. Not talking about what you're going to do, but actually doing it day in and day out, no matter how you feel. And you don't need motivation to start. That's another lie the brain tells you. I'll do it when I feel ready. But motivation isn't the start of the process. It's the result. When you take action, especially in the face of resistance, your brain rewards you with dopamine. That's the chemical of progress, of momentum. And once you feel that hit, you want more. So what do? You take another step, and then another, and then the step-by-step process. And then over time, your brain builds momentum. That's how you generate your own motivation. Not by sitting around and waiting for it to show up, but by doing the thing your brain is trying to avoid. And here's something else most people miss. Movement. Physical movement isn't just good for your body, it's essential for your brain. When you move, especially with intensity, you release neurochemicals that enhance learning, focus, and mood. Even a 10-minute walk can shift your entire emotional state. You don't have to crush yourself in the gym every day, but you do need to move, because stagnation feeds anxiety, stillness reinforces fear, and action, even small action, is the antidote. All of these protocols, breathwork, cold, light, movement, are not just hacks. They are signals. Signals that speak the language your brain understands. Signals that say, I'm safe, I'm strong, I can handle this. And when you repeat them, you build a new baseline, a new level of readiness and resilience that becomes your default. You become the kind of person who doesn't fold when things get hard, who doesn't shrink when stress hits, who performs under pressure because your system has been trained for it. And when you stack these habits consistently, something incredible happens. Your brain begins to trust you. It starts to work with you instead of against you. The voice of doubt gets quieter. The need for validation fades. The urge to quit disappears. Because you've built a nervous system that knows how to respond to challenge, not with panic, but with power. This is how you fight back, not through hype, not through empty motivation, through protocols, through real, grounded action that changes how your brain and body work together. You can't separate the two. Your psychology lives in your biology, and when you take care of the body, the mind follows. So if you're serious about change, about winning the inner war, then you need to train daily, not just your mindset, but your entire system. You need to send your brain clear, repeated messages. We are not afraid of discomfort. We do not run from pressure. We act no matter how we feel. And when those messages become your reality, everything else starts to shift. Let's address one of the biggest lies we've been taught. The idea that you need to feel confident before you take action, that you have to wait until you're ready, that somehow one day you'll wake up with this perfect sense of certainty and then you'll finally make the move. But that's not how it works. That's not how human behavior works. And the sooner you let go of that illusion, the sooner you step into real momentum. Because confidence is not the prerequisite for action. Action is the pathway to confidence. The brain doesn't give you belief first. It gives you fear, doubt. It gives you all the reasons why it might not work, why you're not enough, why now's not the time. That's the natural protective response. Your nervous system is designed to minimize risk, and anything unfamiliar, even if it could change your life, registers as danger. So if you're waiting for your brain to give you the green light, you're going to be waiting forever. That light doesn't come until after you've moved. Most people have it backwards. They think courage is something you either have or don't have, that it's some personality trait reserved for a special few, but that's not true. Courage is a decision. It's a moment where you feel the resistance, the anxiety, the doubt, and you move anyway. And once you do that, your brain gets new data. It sees that you didn't fall apart, that you survived, that maybe, just maybe, you're more capable than the fear suggests. That's when the confidence starts to build, not before the action, but after. And that's the loop you need to step into. Action first, emotion second, behavior before belief. Every time you show up, even when you're scared, even when you're unsure, you're proving something to yourself, that you're not here to be ruled by hesitation, that you are in fact in control of how you respond. That's what confidence is. Trust in your ability to handle what comes. And that trust only comes through exposure, through repetition, through facing discomfort over and over until your brain stops treating it like a threat. Let me be very clear. You're never going to feel fully ready. You might have moments of clarity, moments where everything aligns, but they're rare. More often than not, you're going to have to move with shaky hands and a racing heart. You're going to have to make the call even though your voice trembles. You're going to have to step on the stage, launch the idea, take the leap without guarantees, without permission, without waiting for the fear to go away, because that fear is part of the process. It's not a sign that you're on the wrong path. It's proof that you're pushing the edge of your current identity. If you're waiting for the absence of fear, you're chasing something that doesn't exist. High performers aren't fearless. They're trained. They've simply learned how to act in the presence of fear. They've developed the skill of forward motion no matter what they feel in the moment. That's a skill you can build too. But you build it by doing hard things, by doing them often, and by doing them especially when your brain tells you not to. The mind loves patterns. It loves familiarity. So if you've spent years pulling back when things get hard, doubting yourself before making a move, or avoiding situations that stretch you, your brain has learned that as the default. That becomes your identity. Not because it's who you are, but because it's what you've repeated. And repetition is what shapes your self-concept. But here's the powerful part. You can rewrite the pattern. You can install a new loop. One that says, I take action when it matters, not when it feels easy. And when you do that, when you start acting from intention instead of emotion, the game changes. You build momentum. You build proof. You look back and realize, I've done hard things before, I can do them again. That history becomes your foundation. That's where real confidence comes from. Not from hype or affirmations, but from experience. From stacking small wins day after day until your brain believes what you've proven through action. Think about it. The most confident people you know, the ones who walk into a room and own it, the ones who seem fearless, they weren't born that way. They're carrying around thousands of moments where they pushed through resistance, where they acted before they felt ready, where they didn't let fear decide their future. And now their nervous system is wired for that. That's what you're building. Not just confidence in moments, but a confident identity, an automatic belief in your ability to do hard things. But that only happens if you're willing to start before you're ready, if you're willing to feel the fear and move anyway, if you're willing to fail in public, to be seen trying, to show up imperfectly. That's where the gold is. That's where transformation lives, not behind perfection, but inside persistence, inside action. This is why most people never break through, because they wait for the feelings to be right. They wait for perfect clarity. They wait for someone to validate them, to choose them, to give them permission. But high achievers, they choose themselves. They take the first step with the fear still in their throat. They build clarity through action, and the world responds not to who they are in their head, but to what they do consistently in reality. So if you want confidence, stop looking for it. Start earning it. Pick something that scares you a little, something that stretches you, and do it today, not because you're ready, but because you're committed. You don't need to know the whole path. You don't need every answer. You just need to take the next step and let that step create the next one. And when you fail, because you will, don't retreat, reframe it. Failure isn't proof that you can't do it. It's proof that you're in the game, that you're collecting the reps required to grow. Every mistake, every misstep is another layer of grit being added to your identity. That's what makes you strong. That's what builds unshakable belief, not the absence of failure, but the response to it. The willingness to get up, to go again, to move forward with the lesson in hand. This is the real difference between the people who live full out and those who never quite start. The former act their way into belief. The latter wait for belief to act. One of those paths leads to expansion. The other leads to regret. So if you're serious about growth, if you're tired of second guessing yourself, if you're done letting fear set your limits, then start today. Take one bold action. Not when you're confident, so you can become confident. That's the formula. It's simple, but it's not easy. But if you commit to it, if you show up again and again, especially when it's hard, everything in your life will begin to shift. Not because the fear disappeared, but because you learned how to rise above it. So now you understand your brain is not the enemy, but it will resist anything that threatens comfort. It will fight growth, delay action, and flood you with fear to keep you safe. But the truth is, safety isn't what you're here for. You're here to expand, to evolve, to lead. And that only happens when you stop waiting, stop negotiating with fear, and start acting, not because you feel ready, but because you've decided to move anyway. The future you want is on the other side of that resistance. Your job is simple. Feel it and go forward.